Who done it? Who's behind the assassination of Haiti's President Jovenel Moise? We'll ask about the overnight attack on his private residence that's also left his wife in critical condition in a nation that's known coups, revolutions, foreign interventions. To actually kill a sitting president, well, it hasn't happened in more than a century. It comes as a shock. Why now? We'll ask about the turmoil that's been escalating in a country beholden to poverty, gang rule, where elections had been put on hold, and where Moise himself was accused of planning a constitutional power grab to hang on to his term-limited seat. Who's in charge now, and what direction for America's poorest nation, where citizens are fed up with corruption and mismanagement that's only grown since the 2010 earthquake? What path to reform when the leader has just met a violent death? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at the assassination of Jovenel Moise, and joining us from the capital, Port-au-Prince, Haiti's minister delegate in charge of elections, Mathias Pierre. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, we're also pleased to welcome with us here in the studio Jean-Marie Théodat, geographer, lecturer at the Panthéon-Sorbonne University. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
And in Port-au-Prince as well, we're joined by Pascal Solage, member of the New Pape Domi Advocacy Group. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, hashtag F24debate. It's the outgoing interim prime minister who confirmed the news, Claude Joseph, who spoke this morning, first to broadcaster Radio Télé Caraïbe, and then in a solemn address.
Following a preliminary investigation, we've determined it was a group of armed individuals who spoke English and Spanish, who killed the president. I ask the population to remain calm. I appeal to the intelligence of the Haitian people in these difficult times. I gathered the ministers and we decided to declare a state of emergency in the country.
Now, we've heard Haiti's ambassador to the United States, who's told the Reuters news agency that there's government video footage that shows that the assassins masqueraded as U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agents, adding no way were they DEA agents. Mathias Pierre, do you know any more about the circumstances of the president's death?
So far, we are at the headquarters with the Prime Minister and the Chief of Police and our Minister gathering. There's an investigation ongoing. There is no more information than what the Prime Minister ad interim, Dr. Claude Joseph has stated, that there is, and we confirm, a group of armed people, commando of foreigners, has been responsible for the assassination.
Did you have a cabinet meeting earlier? Did the government sit down?
Yes, according to our Constitution, Article 149,
All right, we seem to have a problem there with Skype. We're going to try to reconnect as quickly as possible with Mathias Pierre. While we try to do so, we're going to stay in the Haitian capital. Widlor Mérancourt is editor-in-chief of the news website Aibo Post. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate. Let me ask you, what have you heard more about the circumstances? Is there any more news at this point?
Well, there is not more news. It's all about speculation with regard to what happened. A couple of videos of eyewitnesses and folks who were around the residency of the president are being circulating on social media right now. We are hearing people saying, "Oh, it's a DEA operation. It's a DEA operation. Don't shoot on these people because they are not your enemies." You were seeing, different videos, but there is nothing that we can count as facts in terms of who are these people, allegedly white people, so foreigners, who came and killed the president. We don't really know precisely. As a journalist, I can state what I don't know as fact. So I can only say what I'm hearing.
And what's it like this morning? We saw images earlier of the streets of the capital seemed a little deserted.
Yes, I'm talking to different people in the capital right now. Folks who have the means and who have the money, they are trying to buy bread, and if they are storing food because they once said to me, "We think a storm is coming." For Haiti, because another person said to me, if the president, who is the head of state, could be killed in this manner, who can't be killed in this country? So it's a lot of people are being afraid because it's an uncertain situation. We don't really know what happened. We don't really know who did it and why this person did it. You have a prime minister who is contested by virtually all that major oppositions folks in Haiti. Why? Because he resigned. He was supposed to be replaced in the couple of days with a new prime minister who was declared prime minister by decree. So he's someone who was not supposed to be in power, but now he go on TV and says, "Oh, I have everything under control," and it's unclear with regard to which power he has. And all of this is happening on a power vacuum because there is nothing on the books to handle a type of situation where every major institution in this country is dismantled. You don't have a parliament.
Let me pick up on this point here, just to remind our viewers. On Monday, the outgoing prime minister, our successor is outgoing interim prime minister. Successor is named. He's called Ariel Henry. He's a former interior minister, a neurosurgeon by training. You're telling us that, in point of fact, there's confusion because under the Haitian constitution, it is the prime minister who acts as interim head of state. So there's confusion as to who's in charge?
There is confusion as to who's in charge. But I think, in fact, the ad interim Prime Minister, Claude, is in charge. But there is not a lot to say with regard to which power he has. Because if you resigned and you were replaced, in which name are you taking decisions that you're taking? But it's a power vacuum, actually. That's what lawyers and constitutional folks are telling me. You don't have anything in the books when to handle this type of situation.
Jean-Marie Théodat, let me bring in Jean-Marie Théodat on this. Right now, you've been on the phone to friends and family in Port-au-Prince, confirming a bit what we just heard from Widlor at this point. Who's got the legitimacy, first of all, between these two appointed prime ministers?
First of all, I'd like to present my condolences to the Haitian people, but also to the president's family, because before being president, he was my neighbor when I was the dean in Limonade. But besides, the Constitution, 1987, the Constitution said that normally it was the Président de la Cour de Cassation that would be in charge if the president was to leave the power. But it's been renewed, the Constitution, in 2012, and now normally it's the Prime Minister. But who is the Prime Minister in Haiti now? Is it the former Prime Minister who stepped off the power for the new one, Mr. Ariel Michel? Not Michel, but
Ariel Henry.
Ariel Henry to step in. But I think that this discussion is like about the sex of the angels. The only thing that
wait a minute. It's an important discussion to know who's running the country after the assassination of the president.
This country has not been ruled for years now.
Right.
Now it's obvious for everyone. it's obvious maybe for you, it's obvious maybe for those who are looking at us from abroad, but we in Haiti, we've been facing the collapse of the state for more than 10 years. That means that those people have no real legitimacy to do the job. And now I think that the president is a victim, like the two journalists that was assassinated last weekend. So that means that the country is in a total turmoil, and the president is one of the many victims that are lying in the streets everywhere in Haiti and every day.
All right, let's talk about those points. Yeah, there were 15 people killed 1 week ago, Pascal Solage. 15 people, including a prominent human rights activist, a prominent journalist. There seems to be this, as we have this standoff over the Constitution, there had been this context of spiraling violence. Now, we don't know, Pascal, if this is in any way linked to the assassination of Jovenel Moise, and I don't want to speculate on this, but just tell us what you've been feeling like in the days building up to now. All right, we seem to have lost the connection there with Pascal Solage. Pascal, can you hear us? All right, difficult getting through. I'll put it to you instead. Widlor Mérancourt, right now there has been, as you just heard there from Jean-Marie Théodat, this context of increased violence of late.
Yes. Right before the assassination of the president, the country was already in turmoil. 7 days from now, 20 people, you said 15, but it's about 20 people were killed, including a journalist and a prominent opponent of the president. And a couple of weeks before that, you have, not just a couple of weeks, but the situation is ongoing. In the capital, you have gangs, leaders, committing extreme violence, and this violence is causing thousands of people to flee their homes and to seek shelters. You have human rights organizations reporting how different cities in Haiti are being taken hostage by gangs and folks with arms that you only see on TV. So it was already a dire situation that gets worse, because before you had a contested president. According to the Constitution, his mandate expired last February. But, because he got the support of the international community, etc., there was some confusion with regard to when his mandate was supposed to expire. So he stayed in power, but he was already a contested president. He was there. He was, he had the power of the office. But right now, who has this power? We don't know.
Who has the power right now? Jovenel Moise, a businessman, and for those who don't know him, a political neophyte. When his predecessor, Michel Martelly, took him under his wing, his tenure had grown increasingly tumultuous, as we've been saying. Sanam Chantier has more.
Jovenel Moise, the son of a merchant and a seamstress, was born to a middle-class family in Haiti's Trou-du-Nord province. At university, he studied political science, later marrying his classmate, Martine Marie-Étienne Joseph. That year in 1996, the couple moved to Port-de-Paix, and that became a starting point for Moise's career. At the age of 28, he launched his first business, Jomar Auto Parts. He also began an agricultural project producing organic bananas. Then came another ambitious venture, providing clean water to rural areas. With loans, Moise managed to develop this initiative, expanding to solar and wind power projects. His enterprise is creating over 10,000 jobs across the country. It was in 2004 that Moise joined Haiti's Chamber of Commerce and Industry. 11 years on, he launched his political career, running for presidential candidate, later securing a victory amid allegations of electoral fraud. Under Moise's rule, the nation of more than 11 million people has grown increasingly unstable and discontent. Economic, political and social woes across the Caribbean island have also deepened. In fact, earlier this year, he said that a coup to overthrow his government and assassinate him had been foiled.
Jean-Marie Théodat, who had it in for the president? We know with his fighting with the opposition, but I mean, no one in the opposition threatened to kill him.
Yeah, but I mean, not of the opposition, but one of a gang leader who is Barbecue, who is very well known, like one of the more cruel gangsters in Port-au-Prince. But at first, it was on the president's side. So there are.
He's a former police chief who
suddenly became a gang leader, but that gang leader used to aggress the oppositors of the president. He is the one who used to go to Bel Air, a very popular area in Port-au-Prince, where the opposition has his backups to burn the houses and also to burn the people. That's why they call them Barbecue. Barbecue. That's quite obvious.
The ambassador, the Haitian ambassador to the U.S. saying it was, and you heard at the beginning of the show, Mathias Pierre saying the same thing. White people who may have carried this out, what could they be? Mercenaries, foreign agents?
This is not this kind of information that I'm waiting for from the president, from the power. I want to know, where are they? Are they gone? Did they escape the country? Were they killed? Who? How many? But these facts are too much. That means they know maybe more.
All right, we have the connection
it's
back.
Sufficient.
We have the connection back with Port-au-Prince. Mathias Pierre, thank you for your patience. Apologies for the technical issues. Do we know more about the suspects at all? Are they under arrest? Have they been caught?
For now, we cannot reveal any more information. Investigation is ongoing. The National Police and the Army are after them. As soon as we have more information, the Prime Minister will inform the nation.
You said that you had a cabinet meeting earlier. What was discussed?
On the cabinet meeting, it was first making the decision of the state of siege. And suddenly, as you know, the Prime Minister ad interim is the actual Prime Minister because the nominated Prime Minister has not been installed. So according to Article 149 of the Constitution, Dr. Claude Joseph is in charge of the country for now with the other ministers.
So Claude Joseph, whose replacement had been named, but you say not installed on Monday, he is the one right now who is the interim leader. We're going to pick up on all this with more when we come back. You're watching a special edition of the France 24 debate. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate. We're piecing together what's happening in Haiti's capital after the assassination of President Jovenel Moise at age 53. With us, Haiti's minister delegate in charge of elections, Mathias Pierre, who's with us from the capital. We're with Vidlor Mirancourt, editor-in-chief of Aibo Post, and as well, geographer Jean-Marie Théodat, lecturer at the Panthéon Sorbonne University. Just before the break, Mathias Pierre, you were telling us that there was a cabinet meeting and that the outgoing Prime Minister, Claude Joseph, for the time being, is the man in charge. You're saying that it is an ongoing investigation, and so at this point in time, there isn't more to say, but it sounds from what you're saying as though the assassins are still on the run.
The police has been doing a lot of work. That I said I can't reveal anything for now. We need to wait. It's very important that we catch those who assassinate the president. That it is crime. In the 21st century, we didn't expect that to happen. But the Conseil des Ministres, the Council of Ministers, is constantly in meeting. Prime Minister is in charge and doing everything that we can to get country into country.
Jean-Marie Théodat,
Yeah.
you're
Like the president, the government needs to wait, but the people wants to know, and we have some questions, and we don't need answers right now, but in the long run, we need to know where they came from, how many, did they escape right after the assassination, were they arrested, and we need some formal information. Just when they tell you that there were men heavily weaponed, with heavy weapon that came and assassinated the president, we're not children. We know that we need big weapons to do these kind of things.
Mathias Pierre, this what the ambassador to the United States from Haiti said, that they were masquerading as U.S. drug enforcement agents. Is that something you can confirm for us?
I think what we can confirm on the government side is whatever the Prime Minister has said this morning, identify a few foreigners, some speaking English, some speaking Spanish, and with some translators. And certainly these people were at the residence of the president to do the assassination with heavy weapon. Certainly, as a very responsible member of the government, we need to wait for the police, army who's on the side doing the investigation to confirm every detail. And certainly, I think more information will come later. The Council of Ministers will reconvene later, and certainly there will be more information out as soon as we gather them, and the Prime Minister will be in charge. Because the Prime Minister is in charge of the security CFN to let people know what exactly is going on.
And let me ask you as well. Again, in this interview with Reuters, the Haitian ambassador to the U.S. saying that the country needed U.S. security assistance and that U.S. officials had told him they were assessing the request. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I think the Prime Minister has been speaking to the international community, particularly the U.S. government. And I think at this point of time, it's very important that way before that huge assassination, we have been asking the U.S. for a certain support. Yes, we will need some support from the U.S. government to help maintain stability, because we are under attack by urban terrorism for a few days. We've been going into that situation for quite a long time. We doing everything that we can with the National Police Force and the Army, but we need support from the international community to address and avoid total chaos in the country, because we believe that those who behind that want the total chaos to put the transition and fight against the election. That's what is going on in the country.
Is it plausible that it could be one of these gangs that are at loggerheads? We were talking a short while ago with Jean-Marie Théodat about this gang leader Barbecue. Is it a possibility that this is a standoff between these gang leaders who have staked out their patch of turf?
We don't think it's this crime has been committed by local gang people. We understand that we are facing in some poor neighborhood local urban terrorism with the local Haitian. But what happened in the residence of the president today, and as it's been identified, foreigners speaking English, Spanish, it's a commando, special forces that were at some point hired by certain groups to commit that crime. That's what we can confirm as far as now.
Jean-Marie Théodat, let me get your reaction to what you just heard from Mathias Pierre. There is, yes, Haiti does need the help of the international community to restore security. You were with us talking about after the abduction of the priests and nuns in Haiti a few months back. The security situation, according to our correspondent, it's gotten worse. There are roads where people don't want to go anymore. Would a return of the international community, there used to be a UN force, would that be welcome?
Personally, I don't know, because this UN force occupied the country for more than 13 years, from 2004 to 2017. And right after the step off the country, the gangs take over. So is it the solution? I mean, I'm not very proud as a Haitian to call the neighbor to help me, even though the neighbor is very powerful, like the United States. We're very, very proud people. We would like to resolve our problem ourselves. And besides, we know that the decision that has been made for Haiti from the United States have not been really in our advantage. So now we would like to find a solution from ourselves.
Widlor Mérancourt, your thoughts at this point in time. We were talking about how Haiti's ambassador to the U.S. has requested, and Washington is assessing his request for help in stabilizing the situation. Your thoughts on whether or not people you speak to on the street, they want outside help at this point?
Well, I don't have much thoughts as a journalist. I can only tell you that Haiti was had since the 90s until today some sort of outside force UN mission in the country, like continually, all the way to the earthquake until today. We have the BNU. So the last big mission that the UN mission that we had in Haiti did not end well. We had the cholera epidemic. We had several human rights abuses, including lots of women who were raped. And the UN did not take responsibility. So I think most people would not want to see the renewal of an occupation force. I think when you speak to people, what they are telling you is they want the political actors to get together and to try to find a Haitian solution.
But there is a middle ground, Widlor, isn't there, between another occupation force, as you put it, and just a little bit of outside help right now to help stabilize the situation, isn't there?
Okay, I talked to Samuel Madistin, who is the head of Fondation J'Éclairé, a human rights organization. He's telling me that, and I think he's percolating the feeling of a lot of people in Haiti, that the Haitians right now need all the help that they can get, and they need the help of the foreign actors. But at the same time, there is a tendency in Haiti that the international community think they know best what should be happening. In the past years, a lot of people in Haiti were protesting against this government. And the international community sided with the president, who was embattled in a corruption scandal. And what Samuel Madistin told me is that the international community needs to listen to the people right now.
Widlor Mérancourt, again, we're trying to piece together why the president was assassinated. And as you say, we don't have many clues to go on at this point in time. But there is this context with what was triggered, we believe, a week ago with the murder of a police union spokesperson, which resulted in, according to one of our correspondents, in death squads going out. We talked about it in part one of our discussion, killing between 15 and 20 people, among them the human rights activist Antoinette Duclerc and the journalist Diego Charles. What's going on? Is it a question of gangs? Is it rival powers? Who are the forces at play right now?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. When 7 days ago, the Antoinette Duclerc and Diego Charles was killed, including 20 people, about 20 people were killed on the same night. Right after the event, the head of the police went out to say that the attack was conducted by a group called Phantom 509, which is a rogue police group. But human rights organizations who conducted, some sort of investigation on this find that the group who did it was a group close to the actual administration. And one of the person who was killed, she received 7 bullets. It's Antoinette Duclair, and she was an outspoken opponent of the actual administration. These are the facts as we know them, and we were in the middle of grieving nationally about what happened, and then the president was killed. So, this is what we know.
Mathias Pierre, is there a link with last week's targeted assassinations and the murder of the president that took place today?
No, I don't think we will connect the local situation of terrorism and the assassination of the president. The president was working on some major projects like energy, certain group control energy, certain group control construction. And the president was also on one of the biggest projects trying to do election and the referendum, avoiding the country to go into the transition, a 3-year transition that a lot of actors has been requesting. So the president had created a lot of enemy. The president has been fighting with a lot of powerful people. I think in the middle of this, we have to agree this is not the first attempt of assassination. In 2018, there was an attempt by a foreign commando that was deactivated. But I think the assassination is part of the plot to avoid and send a clear signal to any president that wants to go into major changes in this country, that you can be destroyed, you can be assassinated. You need to stay in the system the way it is. Don't go for major changes. Don't go to try to move or change the status quo. So that's the situation we have now, and there's no real connection between the assassination of the president and the local insecurity, and as we identify on the government level, the urban terrorism going on in the country for now.
Jean-Marie Théodat?
Yeah. I want once again to express my very deep sorrow regarding the death of President Jovenel. That was my neighbor, and who could have been a friend because I tried to work with him. But at the same time, when I hear Mr. Mathias Pierre, I need to know more. I mean, me as a citizen, and we the people, we want to know more about these plans, those people who are plotting against the president. These are very, that's what we call daki in Creole.
Well, he's talking there about vested interests that want to keep the system as it is.
Yeah, but it's been like this for more than 200 years. But it's been 100 years that we didn't have that kind of assassination. Why now? Why now, and why so easily?
Mathias Pierre, you talk about urban terrorism. What do you mean?
That's the gang, the situation of the gang in the poor neighborhoods, where they use the poor people as shield to avoid police to go after them. And they use whatever they can to feed them and suddenly create that kind of violence and make it very difficult for police to get to them. But to get back to what I was saying, we had in the past president assassination in 1912 and 1915. Yes, we had president goes after major interests that were assassinated. Certainly in 1991, President Aristide was almost assassinated, But I think at this stage we get to a point, the highest level that we can go.
A history of political violence, you're saying. We're running a little short on time, and I need to ask you, Mathias Pierre, you talked about this 3-year roadmap for Haiti that the now late president was trying to put in place. There was that contested bid to have a constitutional referendum. He was term limited under the current rules. Let me ask you, that constitutional referendum, at this point in time, would it still be in the cards? What's the next step to more political stability? Did you discuss at that cabinet meeting the idea of perhaps having elections soon?
But that's, according to the Constitution, Article 149, the sole mandate of the Prime Minister in charge now is to maintain stability, security, and certainly in 60 to 120 days, organize election. That's the mandate of the Prime Minister as of now. So we believe that we need to get election for a new president to get elected and the country to move forward.
120 days, so that's 3 months from now, or 4 months from now, excuse me. Can Haiti do it?
Yes, actually, the agenda has been out. Election was scheduled for September the 26th for the first round of presidential and legislative election, and a second round on November the 21st. So we are on schedule to organize election. That's the actual constitutional mandate of the Prime Minister in charge with the Minister of the country as for now.
Jean-Marie Théodat, an election, is that the way out of this crisis?
Personally, I don't think it's a good idea. I think we need a break. I think we need a break. We need to know what's cooking, really, who is behind. We need to put really all the cards on the table now, because...
And who to conduct an investigation then?
That's the question. That's the question, because this guy has been assassinated now. I mean, it's not just about the former president of Haiti. A man has been assassinated. He was my neighbor. Now I want to know more about this. And we cannot just put it under the carpet and say, okay, now let's just go on. Show must go on. No, show cannot go on because the show was very bad so far. People have been assassinated all around the country. It's not just because Jovenel has been assassinated that we can't have election. It's because of the COVID-19 crisis that is really rising once again in Haiti. It's because...
And the vaccination campaign, which has not yet begun.
It's not begun. So that means we cannot have meetings. We cannot have a real campaign.
But the opposition is going to say, once again, you're postponing...
That's why I say that we need a real break to put all the cards on the table, all the people that are in charge, that feel they are really concerned, and also people from the diaspora. This is the time, maybe, for us to say that we're part of the country, even though we are living abroad. But we're part of this country. We have a legacy. We have really our responsibility. And now, not only in my name, but also in the name of many of my friends, we say that Haiti needs a break.
Mathias Pierre, one final question. Are there plans to sit down with the opposition at this point?
I think in government responsibility is to speak to every Haitian. And I think the Prime Minister, as myself, we've been in the opposition to President Jovenel Moise. So we're open, and the Prime Minister is open to sit with every Haitian from the opposition or with the actual power to find the common ground and move the country forward. That's what the Constitution said in the Article 149. That's what I think the Prime Minister is going to do.
All right. Well, we shall see. In any case, our thoughts are with all Haitians at this moment. I want to thank you, Mathias Pierre, for taking the time out to speak with us from Port-au-Prince. I want to thank as well Widlor Mérancourt, Editor-in-Chief of Aibo Post, Jean-Marie Théodat for being with us. Thank you for joining us here for this special edition of the France 24 debate.